In 2008, this district sent Dennis Moore to Washington, D.C. He promptly voted for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House, went on to vote for the Obama health care bill, went on to co-sponsor and support cap and trade, card check, the bailout, the stimulus bills, cash for clunkers, every single government program that they could think of to spend and borrow and tax our way into prosperity. That Congress supported, and our congressman supported it. What a difference 2 years makes. My first vote I cast was a vote to toss Nancy Pelosi out of the Speaker's office. The second vote I took was a vote to repeal the Obama health care legislation. All this because of your support. I've been able to support a balanced budget amendment. I've been able to strongly support the Second Amendment, protecting human life at all stages. Every single issue that this community is concerned about, whether it involves a bigger growth of government, whether it involves a degradation of our human rights, whatever it may be, we have flipped those votes, and we are now standing up proudly for the values that we believe in here in Kansas. And I couldn't have done it without the people in this room, and what a difference 2 years makes. And I just want to thank you for allowing me the chance to serve and make those votes. Now, certainly we have some big challenges before us. Our unemployment rate continues to be over 8%. It's been over 8% now for 43 months. Think about that, 43 months of unemployment over 8%. By far the longest period of unemployment this high for this long since the Great Depression. When I addressed you last year, at that point it was the highest unemployment rate for that year since the Great Depression. It's a staggering lack of economic recovery that's going on in this country, and I believe that it is partially related to the wrong solutions coming out of Washington, D.C. The solutions to this crisis don't involve a huge government stimulus program. It doesn't involve another government bailout. It doesn't involve another government takeover. The solution to this economic crisis involves the hard work and determination of the American people to dig their way out of an economic challenge like we have every single other time in this country. By trying to have Washington somehow sprinkle magic pixie dust across the world to somehow create jobs out of Washington, D.C., we've essentially prolonged this post-recession recovery. What we should have been doing all along is figuring out how we can make Washington get out of Americans' way, how we can have Washington remove barriers to success, as opposed to Washington trying to figure out how to create wealth or Washington trying to make jobs in Washington, D.C. Their job is to get out of the way and allow the economy to recover, to remove barriers that are impeding people's way. And they put barriers in their way. And you look at more regulation, higher taxes, the healthcare mandates, Dodd-Frank, every single turn, it's been a bigger government solution, and I believe that has made the economy more stagnant and made it more difficult to recover. When I talk to folks out there that create jobs, these small business owners, these entrepreneurs, these folks that we need to grow and expand, what I hear from them time and time again is they want certainty. They want predictability. They want to know from the federal government what their cost of doing business is going to be, what their governmental costs are, so that they can go back to doing what they do best, which is create jobs and rebuild this economy. But we can't even tell them what our tax rates are going to be January 1st. On January 1st, the American people are set for a seismic set of tax increases if we can't move legislation through this Congress and get the president to sign it. And what we need is to put some certainty in it. I believe extending all those rates for a year doesn't make sense. That the thing we ought to do is lock them in permanently and allow the American people to know that those are their tax rates, they know what the cost of doing business is, and then let them go back to doing what they do best, create jobs, rebuild this economy. And they can't do it when Washington can't tell them what the cost of business is. So tax reform and tax certainty is a critical component this fall. The second big issue we continue to focus on is the national debt. We're now $16 trillion in debt. When I addressed you last time, we were probably $15 trillion in debt. When I started, we were probably $14 trillion in debt. It's one of the reasons I was one of the votes against raising the debt ceiling, because I don't believe we should continue to pass these problems on to the next generation. I believe we've got to stand up and do our duty and be honest with the American people about the financial challenges our country's facing and the tough choices we're going to have to make in terms of reducing spending. In 1962, about 32 cents out of every federal dollar was spent on investment programs, education, research, infrastructure. Only 14 cents was spent on entitlements. So in 1962, we only spent 14 cents out of every dollar on entitlements. In the mid-1970s, those lines crossed, where we started spending more money on entitlement programs and less money on other types of federal priorities. Today, we spend less than 15 cents on those investments, and we spend 46 cents out of every dollar on entitlements. By 2030, when the last of the baby boomers have surged onto the Social Security rolls, entitlements will then consume 61 cents out of every federal dollar. How can you go from 14 cents out of every federal dollar for those programs to 61 cents out of every federal dollar? It's not possible. There is not enough tax revenue in this country to send to Washington, D.C. to meet all of the overpromises that Washington has made. The drive in the debt is coming from too many promises that politicians have made over the years to too many groups of people, and they've overspent.